And as you enter, if you wouldn't mind, please putting your email address in the chat screen. That way I have an idea of who is here with me today. All right, so let's talk a little bit about resumes and cover letters. First, we'll start off with our resume and why we should write one of these. Typically, a resume is used as a foot in the door. So a way for you to be able to share information with a potential employer or internship site, or even for a scholarship, a part-time job, something like that. So a resume is a good way for you to be able to market your experiences and your skills and your education to those that you're going to send it to. Now, when you think about starting your resume, you definitely want to make sure that you've got your contact information and your name on the top of the page. And the reason that you want to do this is because you want to make sure that the person you're sending your resume to has the ability to contact you back. And a lot of times I will see resumes where they're missing an email address or a cell phone number, and it makes it difficult to be able to get in touch with that person. Here you see that Michelle Marketer has her physical address on the resume, and that is up to you whether or not you want to have the physical address. At the very least, I would recommend putting the city and the state, as well as your email address and cell phone number, which should be current, correct, and professional. And also recognizing if you're getting ready to graduate that your Appalachian State email address doesn't stay with you forever. So you may want to think about a professional account that is not your Appalachian information. And if you do have a cell phone number on here, please also be sure that you set up your voicemail and that that the employer or whomever is trying to call you is able to leave a message. And next, we're going to move on to the education section. And so your education should definitely include your school name and location and the degree that you're working towards, right? And make sure that you list out Bachelor of Science or Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Fine Arts, whatever that bachelor's degree or other degree may be. You want to make sure that you spell it out. This is also the place that you can put your certifications, your study abroad, maybe some related coursework that you have as well. You do not have to list your high school information anymore because it is assumed that you have a high school diploma or equivalent if you are obtaining your bachelor's degree. And it's also not necessary to list schools where you did not earn a degree. So if you graduated from Caldwell Community College with an associate's degree, then by all means put that on there. If you transferred here from Meredith College after a semester, then that does not have to be on there. And about 3 to 5 years after your first professional experience, then your education can kind of move down to the bottom of your resume. Now you want to make sure that you're using bolding and italics to highlight your degree and to make things stand out a little bit. And again, spell out that BS or BA. And include the month and year of graduation and just that. So if you graduate in May of 2021, just put May 2021. You do not have to put August 2019 to present or to 2021. Okay, so just that month and year of graduation. Now let's move on to experiences. So you really want to think about the particular position or industry that you're applying for and what skills or experiences are important to this position and what experiences are important for this employer to know about you. Now, I belong to an association called the National Association of Colleges and Employers, and every year they send out a survey that asks the people who are hiring these students or these alumni right out of college what it is that they are looking for on these resumes. So you can see leadership, ability to work in a team, those communication skills, both written and verbal, are all very important skills that you want to demonstrate on your resume. So here's an example of an experience. You can see that they've listed they're a research assistant in Asheville, but we don't really know where in Asheville they're working. We're also not sure what their dates are, as they've said 2017 and 2018, but they haven't given us a month. The first bullet starts off with responsibilities included and then ends with a period, whereas the rest of them start, well, the other two actually start with an action word, and then that last bullet starts with a pronoun. So we want to make sure that we're staying consistent with the way that we start our bullets and really think about the action words or those resume words that we want to use that are going to stand out to the people that are reading our resume. We also want to make sure that we stay away from periods, because when we're writing in bulleted format, typically we have a complete thought, but not a grammatically correct sentence. And so we stay away from periods in order to be consistent. And of course, as you can see, these bullets are very vague. And so we want to make sure that we're adding information and answering questions like, what did you do, for whom did you do it, or how did you do it within these bullets, so that the person reading our resume understands what that experience was. Here's that example rewritten, and you can see that they were at the Garrison Nature Center in Asheville in the summers of 17 and 18. And since they're no longer in this position, all of their bullets start with a past tense action word, and we have a lot more information than that first example gave us. You can see that in that second bullet, they've quantified who they worked with. And that last bullet that says, I work with a team or within a group, has changed to demonstrated an ability to work both independently and within the group to achieve project goals. So again, that's one of those skills that NACE was looking at, right? Teamwork skills. But this one talks about it a little bit more in depth than our previous example, which was I worked with a group of people. Now, when we think about types of experiences, we want to remember that experience is not just what you get paid to do. So experiences that are relevant to the kind of job or industry that you're applying to can be internships or volunteer experiences, maybe some leadership that you've done in clubs or organizations, and of course, those relevant classes that you've taken or projects that you've done. So when you're writing out these experiences, you want to use the same layout that you would for work experiences that you've written out. And so you can see here, this person was the vice president of student government and also did a watershed research project and was able to list those as experiences instead of listing them under a different section a little bit farther down on their resume. Now, I like to use a header called related experience because it allows me to be able to put all of my related or relevant experiences to the position that I'm applying for on the top of my resume, which is the first thing that someone is going to read and is really going to be able to hook them so they continue to learn more about you and want to call you for that interview. Now, again, when you're thinking about those skills and those competencies that you've gained, you want to demonstrate the use and the development of those skills. So as you can see here, excellent communication skills becomes honed communication skills through class discussion and presentations on topics including XYZ. And critical thinking becomes ability to think critically, developed through case analysis, research, etc. And so then that way you've got the ability to demonstrate instead of just list those skills that you've earned. And some final resume tips. You want to keep in mind that an employer's first glance at a resume is about a 15 to 20 second skim, right? So you want to make sure that your resume has been reviewed at least 2 times, and preferably by someone outside of your industry, which is where your career coach comes in. So that way, you make sure that it's understood by people outside of your industry. Making sure that your information is easy to find and that it's consistent and that you're detail-oriented and took your time writing your resume, because if you don't do your best on your resume, then what kind of employee will that employer think that you're going to be? I would also encourage you to avoid templates, as sometimes they are very difficult to manipulate, and try to get that information or that content on the paper first before you worry about the aesthetics of your resume. And again, make sure that you're proofreading, you're watching those tenses, and that you're not overusing those same action words, right? So although you may collaborate a lot, you want to find a different word to use for collaborate than just repeating collaborate multiple times. And in the matter that you have to print out your resume, which may be if you're going to a career fair or a networking event, I would encourage you to use something a little bit more thicker than regular printer paper. So a resume paper or a thicker stock paper is appropriate here. And lastly, spell out any acronyms and use a separate page for references, making sure that you're using all of the paper and not overcrowding, right? But then also you can throw those research paper writing rules out the window and extend those margins to 0.5. You can single space, and you can even use like a 10.5 or 11-point font. Now, when we move on to cover letters, we want to think a little bit about how this cover letter differs from our resume, which is a very short, succinct version of our experiences. So this cover letter is nice because it allows you to be able to introduce yourself to the employer and be very employer-centric when you're writing this. So it gives examples of why you would be a good asset or a good fit for the organization that you're applying to. When you're formatting your cover letter, you want to keep in mind this professional business letter or block letter style, where it says sender's name and address. If you have your own letterhead, that is a fine place to put that. But then the rest of it should be in this block format, with the body of the letter being the place where you're really focusing. So we like to break up our our cover letters into 3 paragraphs. This opening paragraph is going to talk about how you became aware of the position that you're applying for and what that position is. And if someone referred you to the position, this is a really great opportunity for you to be able to name drop. You also want to make sure that you're getting the reader's attention immediately and that you're hooking them. So again, they continue to read your letter, read your resume, and want to interview you for the opportunity. And you want to say something that shows that you're interested in the company beyond just a paycheck. The middle paragraph or paragraphs is a place where you're really going to focus on your experiences and your skills based off of what the job description is saying. So you want to take keywords from the job description and translate them into experiences or skills that you have. If someone is asking for Photoshop experience, then in this cover letter, you're going to talk about how you learned Photoshop, whether it was self-taught or through a class, and the times that you used Photoshop, and maybe an example of a project or two that you used Photoshop to complete. So you definitely want to make sure that you're demonstrating knowledge of the organization and the industry, and again, skills or experiences that match what that employer is looking for. And in your closing paragraph, you want to just reiterate your interest in the position, have a call to action, and thank the employer for taking the time to read your materials. I like to end my cover letters with, recognizing that a resume cannot convey all of my capabilities, I look forward to speaking with you one-on-one in an interview. You can contact me at cell phone number or email address. Thank you for taking the time to read my materials. Sincerely, Geraldine Mitchell. Some cover letter tips. You want to make sure that you recognize that a cover letter is not a one-size-fits-all, and that your resume may stay similar for the industry that you're applying to. So if you're applying to 5 or 6 jobs within the same industry, that resume may stay the same. But your cover letter will change for every job and every employer that you apply to. You want to make sure that your cover letter is 1 page, that it has a professional tone and writing style similar to that resume, and that you want it to look like a part of a well put together application. So using the same font, the same letterhead, the same layout as your resume. And when emailing any documents, you want to make sure that you're attaching it as a PDF, even when you're uploading it to a website or an application packet. Again, you want to make sure that you're proofreading this cover letter and also directly addressing it to someone in the company or the organization. If you're unable to find this information out from the website or from the job description, you can always call to request the name of the person who is hiring for the position. If they are unable to give you a name, then you can always address it to Dear Director of Human Resources or Dear Hiring Manager. You definitely want to stay away from Dear Sir or Madam or To Whom It May Concern. Those are both very antiquated greetings. Lastly, I wanted to share with you a little information about Handshake, which you logged into in order to be able to find this event, but also a really great place for you to be able to discover other opportunities, complete your profile, and of course, to schedule an appointment with your career counselor who is still able to see you through Zoom. Now I'll go ahead and open this up for any questions if there are any.